skincare routine. I'd say just plenty of stout and lack of sleep.
Fuck you, curfew, dislocated eye socket. Overnight cop shop with 2 grams in his pocket. Loves his reputation, now he's known for being a rocket. And his drinks 9mm loaded.
So first of all, the BAFTAs were last week. Congratulations, of course. You guys were talking about like hoping to steal a few back to Ireland, and you did for outstanding debut. How did you felt that night at the BAFTAs?
Yeah, it's obviously it's exciting whenever the film's named for, you know, such a like kind of famous kind of award. You know, I don't think any of us really expected it to go that far. But yeah, a lot of rich people around in one room. But yeah, good crack. We're glad that obviously we got nominated for the 6th BAFTA, so we were glad that we got one, and I'm really delighted for Rich, the director, to get the recognition and stuff. So yeah, everyone was pretty excited. Like we obviously, I mean, that's truthfully, like we're not relying on awards to tell us, you know, if we like something. Do you know what I mean? So, but it's obviously nice to get that recognition and stuff. So it wouldn't have been a rough night had we not have won. But I'm glad we got one. Especially for Rich.
It was beautiful to see him up on the stage and hear the words for, you know, such a crowded room, and also the institution that the BAFTAs are, like the very British institution. How did you feel being in that room?
Not really. I didn't really. Yeah, no, I didn't really give a fuck really. Like, but that, you can tell like there's some fancy schmancies about that place, but there's also some really fucking nice people there too. Do you know what I mean? There was some really lovely people we spoke to, so it's not all bad. I think their president though is a fucking disgrace.
Amen. Mic drop.
Yeah.
And I found it very funny, like one of the nominations you received was for best casting. You guys played yourself, obviously. Yeah. Can you remember like one of the first moments that maybe you had to prove yourself before shooting like the movie to someone else, like I can do this, because the acting was perfect, it was brilliant. Was there ever a point that you had to say, like I'm gonna play myself, or how did that end up that way? We
were always going to play ourselves. That was always the plan. But obviously, with no acting experience, we started doing acting classes once a week for a few hours once a week. And then what happened was, once the film started to get a lot of funding, well, I say a lot of funding for an independent film, and it got to the point where a lot of the funders who were putting money in were like, I don't want to put my money in until I can see whether these 3 fellas can act, which is a fair enough thing when you're putting money in. But the director, good for him, was like, no, I'm not showing you any videos, I'm not doing anything, you're just gonna have to trust me. I'm not putting a camera in their face too early, like blah, blah, all these things. And good for him that he didn't. He put his foot down. He said, no, you're just gonna have to trust me, they can act, they can definitely do this. So I think the first day on set was the scene where we're out the back digging the hole, and it was the first time, and maybe the only time, the whole shoot where the entire crew was there, like hair, makeup, like every single person working was there to be like, right, what are we in for the next 7 weeks? Like, can these dickheads act? Do you know what I mean? And I think we won them over anyway, so everybody could go and relax.
I remember when I saw the movie, like in maybe already in October, like it premiered at the Leiden International Film Festival in the Netherlands, like before it was officially in theaters in the Netherlands, which it's still playing in Amsterdam, which is amazing. Like, yeah, what was that first time for you when you were with other people and seeing like first bits of it?
Look at me. Hey! No more music.
Shut 10 when I'm talking.
Show our skill. Something like that.
Yeah, the first time we watched the whole thing in front of an audience was at Sundance, so straight into the fucking furnace.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like right in. So it was meant to be like basically the premiere of the film, basically. And it's always weird whenever it's in front of an American crowd, especially when it's something about Belfast. It's something that was like real colloquial. Do you know what I mean? You know this term colloquial, where it's like we weren't like a lot of films about Belfast. They kind of use like American terms so that Americans will understand. And I feel like for us, we were like, no, we just want to do what's authentic to Belfast, and you know, if people don't understand it, fuck them. You know, and I feel like that was important, and that's why the film is done so well. It's because it's authentic to Belfast. So whenever we were with the American crowds, we were kind of like unsure if they'll get the jokes, and but it's funny, the American crowds were laughing at some parts. In Sundance, they would laugh at some parts and they wouldn't laugh at other parts. And then same in Ireland, they would laugh at some bits, like bits that I didn't even think were jokes. People were laughing at in America. Says a lot about the Americans. Yeah, it went really well. A lot of people laughing and stuff, and like at that point when it was like the whole crowd were laughing and stuff, and I was like, fuck, this could actually go well. Like audiences might quite like this, and they have done so far. Like we've been very lucky.
It's amazing, and the message of the film and your music, of course, aren't new. Lots of people have shared this sentiment for a long time. Seems to be like a lot of more conversation about that message right now. Why do you think KNEECAP is resonating so much with so many people all over the world right now?
Because it's probably to do with the fact that I feel like there's a moment now in history, or whatever way you want to call it, that like, you know, people are like finally having recognition or reclaiming some kind of lost culture or language, or you know, people like who have been oppressed for a long time are finally, like, not enough, but are some way getting some kind of protection now. And I feel like KNEECAP is like, you know, that's kind of where KNEECAP's born from, you know, like a voice for like people who weren't necessarily having the protection, whether it was language or, you know, like sort of cultural. Well, I suppose there's a cultural revival happening all around the world, and like in Ireland it's been happening for a long time. And I think we're just with people who are involved in cultural revival, it's very like pure, and it's very like, you know, innocent, and you know, this is what our culture is and we shouldn't mess around with it and stuff. But for us, we're like, look, culture can survive in an urban setting. We can go out and party, we can go out and be involved with youth culture and still, you know, and still maintain this language and stuff. Do you know what I mean? So I think there's a cultural revival happening around the world, and I think people see that in KNEECAP, even though it's the Irish language that we're like helping to be a part of or whatever. But I feel like it's an international story.
The movie's message isn't like the only thing that left an impression, because you personally did as well. People were wondering on Twitter about your skincare routine, even
Jesus
proposing
Christ.
to you. Did you saw some of those tweets or not?
No, I've seen a few things they got about the skincare routine. I'd say just plenty of stout and lack of sleep.
Wow, that's amazing. That's beautiful. Like someone said, finally watching KNEECAP, Mo Chara, I was oppressed by the English too. I could make you very happy. Please consider it. Like those kind of tweets. Did you saw any of them? They're amazing.
No, I've seen a few of them years ago. Like I haven't seen much in a while. Like I don't have social media or anything, so I kind of avoid all that stuff.
That's healthy. I wish I could say the same.
Yeah, well, I'm unhealthy enough in every other aspect of life. So.
Okay, fair enough. And one of the songs featured in the film, is on the latest album, Fine Art, Better to Live with Green Chat, and of course from Fontaine's DC. Another Irish band. Could you tell us a little bit more about how this collaboration came about?
Underneath all the thunder and there's magic, and if there's a better way to live, I gotta have it. Because I think all day, but when I drink, I'm okay. Gets further away every time I try grab it on.
So obviously Ireland's small enough, but like the Irish music scene is obviously even fucking smaller. So it's kind of like you get to know these people when you're out gigging, or like, you know, just around the fucking festival scenes or whatever. You get to meet these people, and through a friend of a friend, like through Lancome and stuff, we got to meet. Sorry, I keep going at this because I keep getting messages.
Yeah.
So through a friend of a friend, like really Pete from Lancome and stuff, had become friendly with Green and Tom and stuff, and then it was through them we actually met and had a few drinks one night and kind of convinced him. When we got him fucking drunk and convinced him to do a track. So yeah, and we've worked a lot with Tom as well from the Fontaines. He's drummed on a lot of our tracks and stuff. So we kind of know the lads for the last couple of years, and they're one of the best bands in the world at the minute, I think, especially live. So I feel like it's just, it was a pleasure. It was an absolute pleasure.
How do you feel about your music right now? Like evolving and working, for example, with Toddla T in the studio and the new versions that you put out. What's the vibe with all the other external like musicians or producers? Is that like a natural process for you?
Well, I mean, I can only really talk about Fine Art, the first album. Like at the minute, like like a lot of the stuff we do is all digital now, because that's just the kind of music we do. Like I see a lot of like people that do hip hop and they like do like a live gig with a live band, and for me personally, it just never really works as well as the digital sound. It's just something about it. I'm sure there's people out there doing it right, but just for the ones that I've seen, it just doesn't land as well. But like, see, as far as the collaborative process is concerned, like see when we're in the studio, like it's usually just the four of us, like the producer and the three lads. But see, obviously whenever we're recording with actual instruments, it feels like old school. It feels like, you know, like an actual band like from years ago. And it's a really nice process to see, because we don't really get to see that in our day-to-day in the studio. So it's very exciting whenever you have actual musicians coming in.
And can you reveal a little bit for the upcoming new music for?
We have a lot of massive names. Basically, we have a lot of big names for us, people who we listened to a lot growing up. So that's all I can give.
That's all you can give.
That's all I'm giving. That's all I am giving you.
Okay, fair enough. And I was wondering, do you have any memories of the amazing gig that you played in the Netherlands at the wonderful Down the Rabbit Hole festival way back in the summer?
Down the Rabbit Hole, is that the one? Was the Netherlands playing in the Euro football at the same time? That's the one. I'm nearly sure that was the one. So we were there and we assumed we weren't going to get a crowd because there was a big like live TV of the football match like up and behind there, and I was like, oh fuck, surely these people have been at a festival for the last few days, the Netherlands are playing a game, like, but we ended up pulling a big crowd, and I remember that was fucking great crack. The Dutch crowd were fucking amazing. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and we're super happy to have you back at the Best Kept Secrets Festival.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know if you're familiar with the festival, but it looks so peaceful, and so the main stage is next to a lake, and it's so it looks very peaceful and wonderful, but it can get very rough. So it's,
not for long.
Yeah, exactly. What are your favorites? Your favorite place to play a gig? Is it like in super tiny, dirty bars, or do you prefer like the big festival crowds?
That's such a hard question to answer. They both have their moments. Like see whenever you're kind of starting off and you're playing dirty, dingy pubs, and it's sweaty and it's class and it's great crack, the whole time you just want to be playing a big festival stage. And then whenever you've been playing like festival stages for a while and you finally kind of go to another country where you don't have as big of a crowd and you go back and you're playing kind of smaller venues again, you're like, fuck, this is great too. So it depends. It's always like, if you're on a big stage for too long, you want to play the smaller ones for a while because you miss them. And then if you're on smaller ones, you're just dreaming of playing the bigger ones. We're just never happy.
I was wondering if you could tell my listeners, like the listeners of the radio, that are going to be at the Best Kept Secrets Festival at the gig, what kind of energy you want them to bring, or what kind of, not to say outfits, that's super cheesy, but what you want the crowd to do or to prepare for the KNEECAP gig.
Okay, make sure you do your stretches. Make sure you do your stretches before your workout. Now, obviously, like anyone who's on stage, they rely on the crowd. So like the crowd could bring a completely separate energy to what you want. So for us, we want you to go see all your favorite bands, but just maintain your energy for when you come to us. Save all your energy for us, and then when you're there, do as you're told.